Welcome to the TOEFL Listening section. In this part, you will hear one or more conversations in an academic or campus context, such as a discussion between a student and a professor or between two students. You may take notes while listening. Listen to part of a conversation. You will hear it only once, so listen carefully. After the conversation, you will answer questions about what you heard. Some questions will ask you about main ideas and details. Others will ask about implied meaning, speaker attitude, or how ideas relate to one another. Use both what is stated and what is implied to answer.
Hi, Professor Carter. Thanks for seeing me during office hours. I am preparing a presentation on jazz improvisation structures, and I need some guidance.
Of course, Marcus. Tell me what aspects you want to emphasize. Are you focusing on chord progressions, scale choices, or phrase shaping in spontaneous composition?
All of the above, I think. My professor wants a clear explanation of how players map scales to changing chords, and how they create coherent lines across a progression.
Then we should start with the basic structural unit in jazz improvisation, the IIVI progression. It is the backbone of tonal movement in jazz standards.
Right. We practiced 2I-VI in C major in class, with DM7G7, C Maj 7 as the example. Is that still the best place to begin?
Yes. Use DM7G7, C Maj 7, and demonstrate how you choose D Dorian over DM7, G Mixolydian over G7, and C Ionian over C Maj 7. That shows chord-scale relationships clearly.
I get the idea of matching modes to chords, but players also use altered tones on the dominant. How do you explain the altered dominant without confusing students?
Explain it as a color. For an altered G7, you can use the altered scale, also known as superlocrian. It includes B9, number 9, B5, and number 5. This creates tension that resolves to C Maj 7.
So the altered scale is for tension on the V chord. How do you connect that with voice leading so the line still sounds melodic?
Good question. Emphasize guide tones. Guide tones are the third and seventh of the chord. If you target those on strong beats, you outline the harmony, even when using altered colors.
Could you give a concrete example of guide tone movement through the II versus I?
Sure. In DM7, the third is F and the seventh is C. Move to G7, where the third is B and the seventh is F. Notice F is a common tone, and C resolves down to B. Then to C Maj 7, the third is E and the seventh is B, so the B acts as a pivot.
That makes sense. So targeting thirds and sevenths builds smooth voice leading and creates a coherent melodic thread.
Exactly. Another structural device is motivic development. Take a small rhythmic or melodic cell and transpose it through the changes. That links phrases across rapid harmonic movement.
Would you recommend arpeggio-based lines or scale runs when the harmony changes quickly?
Both are useful. Arpeggios outline the chord and make the harmony explicit. Scale runs or connecting patterns fill in the space between arpeggio targets. Combining them is powerful.
What about tritone substitution? I have seen charts where G7 is replaced by D-flat 7. How should I approach that in an improvisation structure?
Tritone substitution is a common reharmonization. Explain it as altering the dominant function while preserving guide tones. D-flat 7 shares the same tritone as G7, so the third and seventh relationship can be maintained for voice leading.
So if I play DM7, D-flat 7, C Maj 7, I can still connect the guide tones and use similar passing lines.
Yes. You might choose a D-flat Lydian dominant scale for a different color, or use diminished passing patterns over the substitute dominant for chromatic tension.
You mentioned diminished patterns. How do diminished approaches function within jazz improvisation structures?
Diminished patterns serve as symmetrical passing devices. A diminished seventh pattern can fit over a dominant to create lines that cycle through chord tones and altered tensions. They are useful for connecting chord tones across fast changes.
I want to include modal examples too. How should I contrast modal improvisation with chord changes?
Use a modal tune like So What as a case study. There the structure is static, so improvisers focus on scalar exploration, motivic variation, and timbral development within one mode. Contrast that with changes-based improvisation, where chord-scale mapping and voice leading are central.
Are there specific strategies for combining modal ideas over functional changes?
Yes. One strategy is superimposition, where you play a mode that implies a related harmony over a chord. For example, you can use C pentatonic over a DM7G7 progression to outline a different color before resolving to C Maj 7.
What about bebop approaches? Should I cover the bebop scale and rhythmic placement in my presentation?
Definitely. Describe the bebop scale as a way to align chord tones on strong beats by adding a chromatic passing tone. Also discuss rhythmic placement, so chord tones land on downbeats to clarify the harmony.
I heard you say earlier that targeting guide tones on strong beats is important. Can you repeat that and explain why it helps the listener follow the harmony?
I often tell students to target guide tones on strong beats to outline the harmony. When the third and seventh fall on the pulse, the listener can hear the chord changes even during complex lines.
That quote is perfect. I will use it in my slides. Finally, can you suggest an exercise sequence for students to internalize these structures?
Start with slow practice of 2 VI progressions. Sing guide tone lines first, then add arpeggio targets and practice voice leading. Introduce altered and tritone substitutions slowly. Finish with improvising motifs that move through the changes.
Great. I will include exercises for guide tones, altered dominants, tritone substitutions, diminished patterns, and motivic development.
That will give the students a comprehensive view of jazz improvisation structures. If you need examples, I can prepare lead sheets for Autumn Leaves and All the Things You Are to show practical applications.
Yes, please. Those tunes will illustrate 2 VI movement and substitution options. Thank you so much for your help.
You are welcome, Marcus. Good luck with the presentation, and bring a draft if you want feedback on the examples and exercises.
Listen again to part of the conversation. Then answer the question.
I often tell students to target guide tones on strong beats to outline the harmony. When the third and seventh fall on the pulse, the listener can hear the chord changes, even during complex lines.
This concludes the conversation portion. For more TOEFL practice tests and study materials, visit Spinta.org.